When you think about the Comanche people, images of fierce warriors riding through the open plains may immediately come to mind. Their skill in battle, their expertise with horses, and their unrivaled prowess as a military force are well documented in American history. The Comanches, often referred to as the Lords of the Plains, were known for their bravery, their savagery, and their ability to dominate the vast expanse of the American Southwest. But there's a layer to their story, a secret, if you will, that many people tend to overlook. It's the story of the Comanche women, their strength, resilience, and strategic power, whose influence was felt just as strongly, if not more, than that of their male counterparts. In fact, the Comanche women were feared by many, not just for their role in their society but for how they operated outside the traditional roles women were expected to play in most cultures of the time. These women weren't simply bystanders in the shadow of men. They were leaders, warriors in their own right, and essential parts of a fiercely independent and adaptable society. Their courage and role in shaping the Comanche legacy are often overshadowed by the warrior image, but their fearsome presence on and off the battlefield was undeniable. To understand why Comanche women were so feared, we need to first understand the position they held within their society. The Comanche, like many Native American tribes, had a distinct division of labor, but it wasn't as rigid as you might think. While men typically took on the roles of warriors, hunters, and decision-makers in matters of conflict, women were responsible for the survival of the tribe in a different yet equally significant way. Women were the backbone of the Comanche society, especially when it came to daily life and survival. They were responsible for the home and the children, yes, but that was only part of the picture. Women were the keepers of the knowledge. The knowledge of herbs, medicines, and remedies passed down through generations. They managed the domesticated animals and oversaw the processes of food preparation. But perhaps more crucially, they were responsible for the production of goods, such as clothing, bedding, and even weapons. They were experts in tanning hides, weaving, and crafting the tools necessary for both survival and warfare. Without these skills, the warriors would have been little more than a tribe of nomadic fighters with no means of sustenance. But that's just the beginning. Comanche women had an immense influence over political and social matters as well. The women were the stewards of family alliances, and their ability to broker and maintain these relationships often had a direct impact on the tribe's success in battle or in negotiations with other tribes or settlers. When the Comanches went to war, it wasn't just the men who fought. While the majority of the warriors were male, women were no strangers to battle. In fact, some women took part in combat alongside their husbands and brothers, not as an act of rebellion, but as an active choice to protect their people and their way of life. One of the most well-known women warriors in Comanche history was Buffalo Calf Road Woman, who is said to have killed a white soldier in battle, securing her place as one of the tribe's most respected and feared figures. She was not just a protector of her family, but a symbol of strength. Her participation in the warfare against settlers during the mid-1800s is a testament to how integral women were in Comanche raids. But it wasn't only the physical participation in war that made these women so feared. Many Comanche women were also known for their shrewdness in battle strategy. While the men were out fighting, it was often the women who remained behind to protect the camp, care for the wounded, and even gather intelligence. Their ability to think strategically, to plan, and to anticipate the movements of enemies made them invaluable in times of conflict. They were not just survivors, they were tacticians. Another reason Comanche women were feared was their involvement in the taking of captives during raids. The Comanches were notorious for raiding settlements and other tribes, often taking captives to trade, ransom, or assimilate into their society. These captives were typically white settlers, but Comanches also took prisoners from rival tribes. What made the Comanche women uniquely feared in this respect was their treatment of captives. Unlike other tribes where captives might have been treated with a certain level of mercy, Comanche women were known for their cruelty to prisoners, especially women and children. This was not born out of malice for malice's sake but as a calculated way to terrorize their enemies. The women knew how to break the spirit of their captives, often forcing them into harsh labor, humiliation, or even ritualized torture. One story from the 1830s recounts a woman captured during a raid. She was taken to a Comanche camp, where the women of the tribe, rather than simply enslaving her or putting her to work, would place her in situations where she was forced to experience extreme physical hardships. It was said that their brutal treatment of captives, particularly women, sent a clear message to settlers: if you were captured by the Comanches, you were in for more than just a battle. It is essential to recognize, however, that this cruelty wasn't random or arbitrary. It was part of the larger strategy of the Comanches, a psychological warfare designed to instill fear and maintain their dominance over both their enemies and their captives. Comanche women were at the forefront of this fear campaign, utilizing their intimate knowledge of survival and manipulation of power to break the will of their captives. Unlike many other Native American tribes, where leadership roles were typically held by men, the Comanche society operated with a level of matriarchal influence that was formidable. Though political decisions were often made by male leaders, women were an integral part of the council, and their voices carried significant weight. The matriarchal structure of the Comanches was most evident in how they viewed leadership and the importance of family. Women held the ultimate responsibility for the survival and well-being of their kin. The bond between a mother and her children, and the relationships between wives and their husbands, were crucial to the tribe's ability to maintain its strength. It wasn't just blood ties that gave women this power, it was the respect they commanded in battle, the wisdom they carried, and the sacrifices they made for their people. To understand the fear surrounding Comanche women, one only needs to look at their role in maintaining the intricate social fabric of the tribe. As time passed and the Comanches began to face the pressures of westward expansion and American military force, the role of women began to shift. However, the fear and respect that they commanded never truly disappeared. Their influence in the tribe continued until the very end of Comanche dominance on the plains. The Comanche people's culture and way of life were decimated by relentless warfare, disease, and forced relocation. However, the legacy of the Comanche women endures in the stories passed down from generation to generation. These women were not just survivors of war, they were the architects of their own fate, drawing on ancient traditions of strength and wisdom to forge a lasting legacy. The Comanche women were far more than the forgotten figures in the shadows of their male counterparts. They were the warriors, the strategists, and the unseen architects of their tribe's success and survival. Their role in shaping the fate of the Comanche people was one of respect, fear, and practicality. Their ability to survive, adapt, and lead, both in times of peace and war, was unmatched. For those who look at history through a lens of practicality, the story of Comanche women offers a profound lesson: true strength doesn't always come from the obvious sources. It can be found in the quiet, calculated wisdom of the unseen leaders. In their fierce, tactical minds, in their hearts, and in their ability to understand the real cost of war, Comanche women were feared not just for their actions, but for their very existence in a world that didn't expect them to be anything more than caretakers. And that, perhaps, is the most fearsome part of all.